The brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp, brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp. The brothers.
You're now listening to Greg. It's the brothers.
Hey everybody,
Wisp. Let's
this
take a
is Greg
ride
with the
with
Brothers
space
Wisp
on this
number
mothership.
154, coming out of the motherland in Texas as always, as usual, as per the standard. And also we have Dynamite guest star Mikey Hammett.
How's it going?
Yeah, excellent. We haven't done a dynamic duo one in quite a while, so but ironically, this will probably be the last opportunity you're going to have for quite a while because you have a special visitor coming.
That by the time the next podcast is recorded, I should have a little son.
Congratulations in advance. I'm sure you should definitely try and enjoy the sleep you can get now. Hang on to the last shreds, and I do mean shreds of sanity that remain for you. So, good
Yeah, well,
luck.
can't really afford to lose them. So
Oh my goodness! All right, yeah, it's gonna be funny once. I don't know. I look forward to your updates in the future. All right. Well, let's see. What do we have? We have our normal cast of characters as far as sponsors go, but we also have a new Patreon. So some fine person went to patreon.com/brotherswisp, and they signed up, and they got access to our Patreon-only Slack and all that good stuff. And it's Philip Lopez. So welcome, new brother. Or should I say brother? All right, excellent. So we also have Sonar. And that is Sonar.Software. They are a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operational support system. So you guys should pop over to Sonar.Software and give them a little looky-loo. We also have TowerCoverage.com. Tower Coverage is your RF propagation system to empower your network. Real-time data metrics enable your coverage area, reaching your customer base and more. The industry's best RF propagation mapping system allows website integration for customer sign-up and pre-qualification. Use this data to scientifically plan your network expansion and help your WISP succeed. Get a free trial today at towercoverage.com. All right. We got those out of the way. So I have been blowing and going like crazy lately. So I honestly have spent very little time in the Slack as of late. I've been trying to catch up, keep up as best I can, but life finds a way. No, I just been really busy. So let's see, what have I been doing? I very seldom do updates on Greg. So we are, you guys know that I'm a salesperson, right? So I sell things for a living now, believe it or not, and it's not at the quickie stop. Whoa! Something fell over in the data center there. It's pretty scary. Something fell off the library shelf.
yeah.
But let's see. So So I actually went to Oklahoma. So I've started traveling a little bit again. I think I might actually be gone towards the end of this month again. Trying to push that one across the line, or maybe drag it across the line. Just sometimes you just need that little extra shove. But have you traveled? Have you traveled for work, Mike? I'm assuming you have at some point or another, right?
Well,
Not like a conference, but like you're.
Yeah, because doing work for the IX, I go to St. Louis or Indy.
So, do you usually travel by yourself, or are you with a team?
Usually myself. A couple of times I got Kate to go along with, but usually just myself.
All right. Well, I don't know if you've ever traveled with salespeople before, but it's a different kind of experience. So I've only ever traveled with like engineers before, and we're there to get a job done. We get the job done. I think I am very atypical as far as sales folks go, right? Like I'm a teetotaler, so I don't drink.
You are atypical.
Yeah. We can just stop there. Yeah. So I don't drink, I don't like gamble. I don't I don't do any of that interesting stuff. I just do the boring crap. And so I'm there with salespeople that are, I'm not saying they're cliche salespeople, but they have some of those tendencies. So we, what did we leave? I left the house 5:50 on Wednesday morning. So normally I just leave out of the airport here, and we take a little puddle jump from College Station, either Dallas or Houston. You pick up something and you go. But man, flights have been like so crazy lately with cancellations and like delays and all that stuff, especially when you're heading out of these like little regionalized airports. So I just said, forget it. I don't want to like risk it. I don't want to have to stress, because it just like causes me stress. Like travel stresses me out. You know what I mean? Like I'm always afraid. I'm like, am I going to miss my connecting flight? And it happens from time to time. And I don't know. I just don't want to deal with it. So I drove to Houston, and we flew Southwest because this was like kind of last minute. So the price were, the rates were like skyrocketing, whatever. So anyway, so I left at like 5:50. So I didn't get a lot of sleep, and we get there just fine. We do the thing. But we stay out with a customer until like 1 a.m. on Wednesday night. And so then we get back, and then you try and get to sleep, but then we have to get up at like 4:30 or 5 or something. So it's like no sleep again. And then Thursday, I'm supposed to be like actually engaging with a customer all day long. So I'm just like busted, no sleep. And then, we end up staying out pretty late again. And then you got to go back to sleep and then wake up at 4 to catch the early morning flight back, dude. So it's just like, I'm still recovering. What is it, Saturday? I'm still recovering from those trips. And this is just like the last trip I went with salespeople. It's like they don't sleep. I mean, it's fun. Like I love the engagement of like talking to customers and getting in there and solving. Like my kid was telling me earlier, he's kind of, I don't know, he's sort of got an interesting personality. He's like, what's the point of having a job? They all suck. It's like they're only about money. I was like, dude, it's not just about money. He's like, oh, you wouldn't be doing the job you are at Red Hat if it wasn't like for the money. I was like, no. I was like, I've worked at a lot of places that I was miserable at. This place I actually enjoy. Like it challenges me in all these fun ways. Like I get to, I get to like perform for customers, and everybody likes to perform in whatever way speaks to them. But also, I actually like genuinely get to help these people. So it's almost like a hackathon situation. A lot of times that I go out, it's like, let's take a look at your playbooks. What are you trying to do over here? Let's brainstorm what we do over there. And like at the end of the day, you leave them better than you found them, sort of thing. So I love all that stuff. But Jesus, the rest of the sales guys are trying to slowly kill me, I think.
It's like I don't understand people that don't like. I guess I've just been fortunate that like, industry related jobs that I've had. Obviously when I was younger, I had, I worked at a warehouse, I worked at a restaurant, type stuff that most people are going to be doing. But like, other than those, I've always thoroughly enjoyed everything that I did. And so like all these people that are so, just, in it for the money, I see it in all the Facebook groups, whether it's tower climbers or, underground construction or the IT groups, everyone's always just like, screw those guys, you can make another 50 cents an hour, go over there. And it's just like, but I like where I am. Like, like I like what I am. I like what I'm doing. I like, how are you working at a job you don't like? Like, isn't there a job you do like? Like, why don't you go work there? Yeah. I guess I'm just fortunate.
Well, I mean, you say you're fortunate, but maybe also you're not the kind of person or the personality that's willing to put up with a crappy job. You're just like, if I don't like this, I'm going to go somewhere else. And me and my stupid brain, I'm like, well, I don't know that I can find a better one, so I'm just going to sit here and be miserable. So that was like me for quite a long time. So, I mean, maybe you've engineered it in such a way that you're finding jobs you enjoy.
Well, and then I suppose that like, starting your own business, that's kind of, you have to like what you do. Why else would you do it? Start a business with your friends. That's, you gotta enjoy the work to do it. Why else would you start a business? And then lately, working with the fiber company, it's like, oh, I get to do the same thing I was doing by myself, only with a much bigger checkbook. Even better.
Yeah. And also, like, when you get to that level, you actually have a team of people, right? You can have folks that you could, depend on and all that stuff. Like, when you're a small business, it generally is you on all the things, huh?
Yeah, and actually that has been some of the frustrating part is I bring on a team and it's like, well, like I'm doing more work with the bigger team. So there's definitely challenges in when you branch out beyond just you or just the initial people that you agree to team up with. There's lots of unknowns that it's like all of a sudden you realize that not everybody is has the same thought process as you do. Not everybody's as gangbusters. Like they may be dedicated time wise, but then like follow through is not as good. So it kind of starts to suck a little bit. But as time goes on, you can convince other management, hey, we need to hire more. Hey, we need to hire more. Hired somebody 6 months ago and hiring somebody else now. So then hopefully, and actually both of the people that I've hired are in our Slacks. So,
well, I mean, you know what? It's so scary trying to hire somebody just cold, where you don't have any like references, and all that stuff. So yeah, like if there is a forum where you're accustomed to seeing this person and knowing this person and interacting with them, I mean, it's a nice way of picking up additional talent. So yeah, I'm not saying that I've never poached or attempted to poach from the Slack or are actively attempting to poach people from the Slack, because I probably have and am at the moment. But I was just thinking about it. I didn't want to say that like I don't enjoy the team I work with. All of those people are a blast. Like I legitimately have fun the entire time. It's just holy cow. It's like I have to like gird my loins because I know I'm about to get no sleep. I guess that's the only part. It's just you go into it knowing you're not going to get to sleep and you're just going to have to go. But it's honestly, it's fun. It's a blast. You get to eat a lot of awesome food, like at very cool places, and you get to meet all kinds of interesting people doing all kinds of interesting stuff. I got to, what's the most interesting thing I ate? This go around, the most interesting thing I ate, I got a dessert that was what do they call it? Like it was either creme brulee cheesecake or brulee cheesecake. And so imagine a wedge of cheesecake, and then they coat it in like that, I don't know, it's like terrine sugar or something like that, and they hit it with the blowtorch. And so, like the crispy crust on top of a creme brulee, it's like a wedge of cheesecake coated in that. Dude, I crushed it. It was so delicious. It's cold cheesecake on the inside, hot on the outside.
Yeah.
With that crust. Oh man, dude, it was killer.
Sounds like I could have half dozen pieces of that.
Crushed it. Dude, I like ate the whole thing myself. It was I wasn't ashamed of anything. It was awesome. But I definitely had a good time and enjoyed myself. But it takes me a day or two to recover after that stuff.
I guess it sounds kind of like a similar experience to if you go to a conference. Like mums are just 1 or 2 days, but a WISP show you're there all week. So that that definitely pushes you over. I think one night this past WISP show, I was still up when my wife had woken up for work.
I try and be somewhat reasonable at those conferences, so I get at least a modicum of sleep. I'm in the minority, I think.
And it's like, it's not like I'm like, getting hammered or going to clubs or doing other risque things. Most of the time it's just, like sitting at like the restaurant or bar that's in the hotel where all the other WISPs are, and you're just talking about crap.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm not out partying, like obviously I'm having some drinks, but I'm not getting hammered. I might have 6 over the course of the whole night. It's a different experience.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. This go around, what did I do that was interesting? I configured a map lite. Those little microtics that are the size of a matchbook. I configured that to be my travel router. So I noticed that after that Windows update, like my L2TP VPNs are bricked on my Windows laptop. So was thinking, well, let me just take this little map lite and I'll configure it to be my travel router. So those guys, yeah, about the size of a book of matches. They have one little USB, what is that, like mini port, like a USB mini port, I think, to power it. And then you've got one Ethernet jack on there. And so I configured that guy to connect to, I think it goes SSTP, or no. I think I've got 4 VPNs. I know it's got OpenVPN, L2TP, I think SSTP, and then like a Hail Mary on PPTP, right? just in case, so I'll have something. So it connects all of those simultaneously, and then I just use routing to pick which one I'm actually going to go over. So I'll always have like a route with a route mark, right? So I create like a different little routing table. So you do that in MikroTik by giving a route mark to the routes. And then I'll have 4 different default routes in there, each with different precedence level rates, with the most secure having the lowest precedence. That way, if that interface actually comes up, it'll enable that route rule, and all of my traffic will just flow over that. If for whatever reason they're blocking the most secure, well, then it just goes to the next one and then to the next one. So ultimately, my goal is at least one of these is going to come up, and then it'll connect and go over it. And so it makes my demo process like really seamless because I do split tunneling. I guess I could tunnel all of my traffic out of there. It's not like it matters because pretty much everything I'm doing is just showing web pages. But most of my infrastructure is not publicly accessible on the internet, right? So I'm doing like Ansible automation platform, doing private automation hub, but then I'm connecting to cloud resources like, I'll do Azure or Red Hat's like console interface and stuff like that. So it's, it just makes it such a seamless interaction since everything's, going over the VPN, or I'm splitting either way, however I choose to do it. Another cool thing on the MikroTiks is they often have a myriad of LEDs on there. And on the map lights, they've got one for wireless is connected, Ethernet's connected, power light, and then there's another one for like if you put it in cap mode. And so I just have mine connected, or rather I have a NetWatch script that tries to ping my VPN gateway. So once they connect up, it's able to actually ping it. And if it responds, the NetWatch script turns on that extra LED. And if it isn't connected, it turns it, like if it fails to ping it, it just turns it off. That way, as soon as I like bring it up, I can see immediately just, looking at the device itself, if it actually connected. And then I have like this, this Velcro that's kind of sticky on either side. And I just have like a little piece on my laptop and I just kind of stick it right up there. So it's really convenient to pop and go with it. And then I'll also put in like a bridge filter. So only my MAC addresses are allowed to actually like traverse the device, just to add a little security there. It's not bulletproof, but it does the trick. I was thinking you could also just have it so that whenever it boots up, it turns off all the VPN interfaces until you connect into Winbox and then turn them on. Because that would basically make it so that nobody could get in there. But it's like, if somebody was to get it, how would they know like what my MAC addresses are, or that I even have it configured that way, unless they listen to this podcast and then go really out of their way. But ultimately, it's just allowing people into like web pages and stuff like that. So it's not really too super secure or too funky, but I really like them. The only thing I would like to see different on those is that same form factor, but with a 2.4 radio and a 5 gig radio. So right now they've only got 2.4 radios built in. I think it would be cool if you could do a little bit of both.
Yeah, and then, I can't imagine that that'd be too difficult to make sets aren't going to be, the chipset's a chipset, how
even the map form factor is like 2 to 3 times as thick and a little bit bigger around. I would be happy with that too. In that same form factor, if that had 5 gig, but again, that one's only 2 gigahertz as well. So I'd like something small that does 2.4 and 5. I think that would be like the ultimate travel router, just because it's so compact. And this time I traveled as light as I possibly could. So I only took my laptop bag and I was able to like fit my clothes and all my various sundries in that one bag. And it was so convenient to travel just with a single bag. I'm definitely going to try and go that route from now on if I possibly can. It was so much easier to just get it in and off the plane and all that stuff and not have to fight with it. And you're always like worried, am I going to find like enough space like in the overhead compartment to pack my crap in if I have both bags, and so it's just all that goes away and you just kind of zip zap and on your way. So it was much easier. Also, United, for whatever reason, my regular carry-on bag has wheels, and so I want to wheel that, and then my laptop bag has the little arm that pulls out, and I can wheel that too. And they were like giving me so much trash about having my laptop bag with wheels. Like, you can't have 2 bags with wheels. They were just like throwing a fit over it. So I was having to like lower down the arm and like pull down the flap that covers the wheels. And then they were perfectly fine. Exact same bag. Right? It's just the fact that the wheels weren't visible and I wasn't using them made it okay somehow. Such is life.
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense, yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I guess that was me traveling. That was catching up with Greg. Let's see what else do we have going. They're running Doom on a 2011. It's about time. I guess it's a real product finally. I mean, we've been waiting 20 years?
Now is it actually on, like, is it actually running, or is it
I don't know,
just a
man.
video?
Because like it didn't look like they had any interfaces hooked up to be able to control it. So maybe it was just a demo video. I don't think we had any additional information on it.
Does a 2011 have a USB port? So then you could hook a controller up to that keyboard and mouse onto your 2011, and you could rock some Doom.
That's the real mark of a quality product, though, right? Can
it's
it run Doom?
Yeah, it's well, I'm sure they'll tell us shortly.
I think that was another one of Nick Arellano's TikTok finds. I keep talking to more and more actual adults that are using TikTok. It's making me wonder if I'm going to succumb at some point. Right now, I don't think so, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm not too interested. Like one person one time, like I went into I went on tour, incognito mode, TikTok. Okay, just do something. Okay, get out. I was like, I don't want anything to do with it. Keep it away.
I'm actually a little afraid to get on there because I hear the algorithm is extremely good at like giving you this, the stuff that will just turn your brain off and make you keep swiping, and I'm afraid I'll fall down a hole. So I really just want to avoid it altogether, and that way I don't have to worry about it. Let's see. What else is going on? I've been doing a lot with the Ansible Automation Platform 2.1. Surprise, surprise, that's my product at my main job. So it's not too outside of the realm of like possibilities that I would be doing that. But I've been doing a lot with execution environments. So it's interesting in that from like 1.x to 2.x, they've switched kind of primarily how you perform your automation. So now it fires up a little container, performs your automation, then ephemerally goes away, which I think it's a pretty cool concept. It makes a lot of the enterprise issues go away, but it is a little bit funky to get started making the containers. I mean, they give you bases and they even have tools to build with, but it wasn't all in one place like the documentation. I know, Mike, that you understand that I need you to explain something to me like I'm 5 years old. Like I need all the little steps, just hand feed it to me, and none of that was there. So I spent, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days putting all that together and made a blog post about it, and it apparently went over pretty well. I think they're going to adapt it to be part of the official documentation on execution environments, which I thought was pretty dope. My name won't be on it, but I can look at it and, say, oh man, I wrote that. That's cool. And,
that's fine. You don't have to, other people don't have to know. It's like, I did that.
Yeah,
that's all
I've got it documented for my official like promotion process. So it's gonna benefit me either way. I'll feel better about it, but also it's gonna help me out at the end of the day. But I don't know, I just thought that was kind of cool. It's like I don't think I've ever written something that is going to be translated into like tons of different languages and be utilized by people all over the world. So I think that's kind of neat to think about, you know. Although the LinkedIn Learning stuff might be, no, I don't know if it's translated. Honestly, I have no idea if they translate that stuff. I know a lot of people post on LinkedIn that they've just watched my course or gone through my course, and it's like in a different language when they're posting it. But I wonder if they see it nationalized or regionalized. I guess that's the word, or if it's in English. I'm not sure. But that's kind of cool. And I wrote a blog post on doing it the manual way, but then I, of course, automated it. It's a little meta. You use the automation tool to build things for the automation tool, but it honestly turns it into, you tweak a couple of files in your Git repository, and then you just tell it to build, and it magics everything and installs everything. So that's pretty dope. So that was my, that's what I've been working heavily on the last little bit. So prepping for projects for customers and doing that stuff. And then, man, while I was out, I got scheduled for like 4 things next week. So it's going to be a busy week coming up as well. So I don't know, man. I just really put my head down and stayed really busy with this stuff. So I haven't been inside of a router doing that stuff very much. It's mostly just automating all of the things, which is pretty cool, man. I really dig it. It's fun in a way that I haven't like had fun doing stuff in quite a while. So it's fun to be challenged again with no stress. Because I used to be challenged, but there was like a crazy amount of stress. Like the system can't fail. You know, it absolutely has to be bulletproof. And now I don't do anything in production, so it's pretty baller. I'm digging it.
It doesn't matter if it works.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's like all Hollywood, right? The ghost town looks great, but if you look behind it, it's just, it's just a facade with 2x4s propping it up. So, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to build stuff for. But that's me and my ruminations. What are you? You added some stuff down here. I know you and Ollie are always active in the Zhone channel, trading stuff back and forth. I'm glad you were able to find some kind of other Zhone nerd. You guys are definitely way down in the weeds. I poke in there occasionally, usually just to scroll down and mark it all as red, but because I don't know what you guys are talking about in there. You're all just shenanigans. It's pretty neat though.
Yeah. So a quick update on my Zhone situation. So we finally got the new management system updated enough where it works.
Was it broken before?
They had to. Well, so first it was I had ransomware take out the storage underneath the server. I didn't build the environment and I hadn't got around to redoing it, but if you go into an environment where someone has used a Windows server as the underlying storage for other servers, fastlane that to be not the case, because that will just cause you problems. Oddly enough, yeah, and so the server didn't have internet access, and yet got ransomwared. So that was fun, figuring all that out. But anyway, so we lost a perfectly functioning Zhone management server, and then they wanted to let's rebuild using the new version. Okay. And in December alone, I believe I was responsible for 3 or 4 service packs, as they were fixing things that didn't work. And so eventually it now provisions correctly. Might even be able to do some more stuff through the GUI now, so that's great. The team that was rebuilding it with me at Zhone, like I can use the stuff, but GPON can get so very complicated. I'm far from an expert, so I was going to be the one building provisioning templates. And so working with them to get it all figured out, and found out that the original team that put it together did something wrong. So then that's why I wasn't able to get the speeds that I wanted. And then we figured out the dial plans were wrong. That's why this couldn't happen. So there's been lots of Zhone problems resolved.
So when you're saying provisioning templates, that's like
so I'm really
templates that get pushed to the CPEs?
kind of. So in GPON, in most GPON, you actually configure the chassis, and then GPON has its own protocol, OMCI, that then configures the CPE. So you don't have to actually touch the CPE ever, other than plugging it in. It's sort of like, TR69, except it's inherent to the protocol. It's not something you're throwing on top. So everything happens up at the chassis, and yeah, because it's choosing, what bridges and how you're going to rate limit them, and then what happens with each bridge when you do it, and configuring the voice, and then configuring, what, how the NAT works, and then configuring the client side DHCP. You have to figure out all of that ahead of time on the chassis. And most of it's not that difficult. It's just getting into some of the nuances of, making Wi-Fi work, but without without forcing an SSID, without the, overwriting it.
So just a lot of
gets
knobs,
kind of hairy. But oh yeah, a lot of knobs. I mean, it's like, microchip level of knobs.
How's the documentation for the Zhone stuff? Is it pretty good?
Yeah. Well, it's mixed because for some platforms, they'll have 3 or 4 different sets of documentation, like files for different aspects, and then there'll be 1,200 pages, 1,700 pages, because there's so many things to configure. Of course, I've found that, like, with MikroTik, historic MikroTik anyway, they've gotten a lot better at it over the past 5 years. They usually just tell you, this is the option and this is what the option means. Okay, do I want it or not? They wouldn't tell you. You have to know if you want it or not. So usually what I do is I'll email my SE and I'll be like, hey, I want to do this. Show me the documentation where I can do that.
MikroTik's gotten better about not just showing you what the knobs are, but giving you, they don't necessarily, they don't account for every scenario, but they start giving you kind of like scenario-based configurations. Like if you're trying to do these sorts of things, and so it'll be like the top 3 use cases for,
sure,
this feature. So like configuring VLANs, here's the top 3 ways we generally see people do it. And so it's kind of scenario based. And I really like that, right? Because, it shows you not just what the knob does, but here's how you kind of turn it in different areas. But then, yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot in between that, that doesn't get mentioned. There's a whole novel of information that's also associated with that. But at least it gets you in the ballpark.
Oh, sure. And that's, and that's fine. Like, get me in the ballpark, and then I can dig through the rest of the stuff. Set me on the right road, and then I can figure it out from that documentation that says what every option does. But if I'm just given an 1,800-page file and say, have fun, it's take a long time to figure out.
That's cool. How about their support staff? Are they pretty decent whenever you get a hold of them?
Yeah, so support has, like, actual, break fix support has always been great. They'll, they're more than glad to hop on a, screen share with you to see the problem. If it's not really complicated and it's, you doing something wrong, they're even willing to just fix it for you. But then I did run into, like, my first problem was that, rebuilding the management server, it took me 5 months to find somebody to do that. Going to the VAR, going to the vendor, ultimately what ended up happening was I went on Nanog and asked, hey, does anybody know how to do this? I'm willing to pay. I've been willing to pay the whole time. Just make this happen, and end up getting actually a different SE at my reseller. Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh wait, you're a customer of ours? Crap, I can't help you because you're not my guy. Well, hey, if it doesn't work out, let me know." And then the other guy was plodding along, and he was. I don't know anymore whether he was the problem. The software was the problem because it was taking forever to get anything done. And then when we hired a new operations guy, Glenn, he really lit a fire under Zone's behind, and all of a sudden it was all hands on deck. And yeah, it still took 2 or 3 months to get it fully functional, but you could see progress. And then we started going weekly calls, and all right, why haven't you done anything yet? Why is this still broken? So
good, got
that
there
really
in the
helped. Yep. One disappointing thing is apparently not many people ever asked about a guest Wi-Fi, because when I asked them, how do I do that? They're like, maybe this? Let me check the developer, see if that'll work. And then after a while, they're like, yeah, it was like, sleight of hand. It was like, oh, hey, we have this new partnership with Plume and blah, 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 blah. And, this spring you'll be able to do. Hey, so what about the thing you had suggested before, like 3 weeks ago? Yeah, we have this new with Plume that we're... Okay. So apparently it doesn't work that well. Try to set up a guest Wi-Fi. Like, not just another SSID, but like
Right.
actual isolation from anything else. For any sort of retail establishment, you don't want your, POS system on the same open Wi-Fi as your customers. But yet you can't turn on client isolation, because then how is your POS going to print to your POS
Right.
printer? It's not. So I was like, how have you been in business this long? And I'm the one that makes you figure out how to do guest wireless. Like, it's...
I guess everybody else just
I don't get
uses the CPE as like the DMARC, and then they stick another device in there and call it a day, huh?
Yeah, they must, but it's just like I've been in favor of that, because like it's just adding more devices, more things, like more things that go wrong. Like yes, I have one more complicated thing to go wrong, but it's just like like how many times I've done an install, like back when I started my WISP, it was like everything was separate. So I had a switch and an access point and a PoE injector and this, and like so many people were like, can't you just use less boxes? No, I can't. Um, Actually, one of my sales guys that doesn't live in our coverage area, and he got fiber from Metronet, and they had like a 4 or 5 box deployment as well. I'm like, how is it 2019 and people are still doing 4 or 5 box deployments? Like, doesn't even make any sense. Like they had the ONT, and then Wi-Fi, and then TV Wi-Fi, because TV Wi-Fi wasn't the same Wi-Fi as your Wi-Fi, and then another box, and it was like, good God, how does anybody find this acceptable? I drop one box and I'm done. Other than businesses that get something a little bit fancier.
I mean, simplicity, right? It's the fewer number of products you have, the lower the opportunity for them to screw something up, or a device break, or them I'm going to move this around and then plug the ports in all wrong. And not to say they're not going to figure out a way to screw it up anyway, but why give them extra opportunities to do so?
Sure,
all right.
Sure.
Well, what do you have on the list about pinging your infrastructure? What's going on there?
So there's a vendor. It's many people's love-hate relationship vendor. They make a wide range of network and seemingly increasingly common consumer electronics equipment, and they have a ping function that on their dashboard it'll do a it'll graph ping over time, so you can see how stable your internet is. And then they also have failover modes where you can switch between 2 connections, and you can choose between their hard set one, which is ping dot their domain, or you can choose a custom, test destination. Well, apparently choosing your custom test destination has no impact on what the device uses for the failover mode in detecting if the internet is up or down. Their ping.url, FQDN, just points to 8.8.8.8 and 1.1.1.1. This company's large enough they can afford a few of their own servers.
You're dancing around it, but I'm assuming you're talking about Ubiquiti.
That would be a very good guess. I mean, they could literally deploy hundreds or thousands of servers for ping destinations, and it would not break the bank. Yet, they use Google's, to which nobody has any control over. Apparently, including Google, because last week, their Chicago instance of 8.8.8.8 just stopped responding reliably to ICMP for about 18 hours, which manifested itself in these Ubiquiti products of the internet flapping from one interface to another. The rest of the internet worked fine, but it kept flapping back and forth, which is great for phone calls, especially when you have a business that often engages in very long phone calls. While the internet seems to be working fine because the internet doesn't really care that you switch from one to the other, the phones do. And so then I went to complain, as one may be shocked to find out that I did. Additionally, I went to the Nanog mailing list and asked if there was official documentation stating that, these resources are not to be used in that way. And, oddly enough, because of the outage, it also happened at the same time someone else was asking about it on the outages mailing list. And I found some Google links through that, they don't say don't do it, but it's all the disclaimers of, it's not reliable and blah, 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 you shouldn't depend on it, and so on and so on. Which of course means that all hardware manufacturers should just hard code that in there as the test destination when they say you shouldn't. So this Nanog list thread actually evolved into people trying to figure out what we should build as a purpose-built ping destination. How can we best facilitate this? I'm gonna type it because it's easy to remember, it's easy to type. But I like to think that that's not the low-hanging fruit of the problem. How many devices, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of devices out there would have hard set whatever the manufacturer said to be testing to? Not just Ubiquiti. I guess Meraki was doing it. You can change it now with Meraki, but it must still be the default, and several others. Like, why not make something meant to take pings, optimized for pings? Like, why? So then they're trying to
while
sort
they get
that
that
out.
sorted, and your customers are flapping like crazy for 18 hours. What's a workaround you could do to fix it? I was thinking you could, inside your network, you could redirect 8888's ICMP pings to just the local router or something like that, the way it appeared to be up.
So what I ended up doing, in MikroTik you could make a file rule that does anything. You could, that's the power of MikroTik. You could take that packet, inbound packet, and make it do whatever you wanted it to do. But Ubiquiti did. I was able to make a JSON config file that changed what the fields were set to for what the ping destinations were. So then I made one of those, pointing it to the server that I wanted it to talk to in the first place, and threw that into the environment, and problem went away. Now that just means that now I have one server that is the source of problem, and it's mine, so I can't blame somebody else. But I don't know that I've ever had a problem with it, so knock on wood.
Yeah,
I'm okay
I used
for
to
now.
use the backbone routers at the data center I worked for. That was my kind of go-to. It's, pretty reliable that those guys were going to be up. Not to say, if there wasn't some wackiness out on the internet, people would have trouble reaching it. But if you were inside, at least it was. Well, you know what? And even then, it was pretty stable, pretty functional. So yeah, I can't imagine why the major carriers couldn't drop, a device in there every so often.
It's this conversation's had so many different things. People trying to solve so many different problems. Of some people are taking it all the way to the, how can it, how can we do something to automatically diagnose all internet problems? It's just like, let's start with low hanging fruit. And any casted network whose job is to respond to pings. Let's just let's not try to solve all the world's problems. Let's just solve one of them. And
Layered
then go
approach.
from there.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah. But who knows if it's going to go anywhere? But there's still conversation a week later, so I'm hopeful that
Right,
that it'll keep moving.
All right. Well, what's next on the list, bud?
So I've in the past, Sonar has gotten quite a reputation for not being communicative, not being transparent. You don't really know what's going on. And this year they've been pretty good about that. Last month they had some pretty big, perhaps Azure related, but definitely the ball also in their court problems. And they had a RFO that, well, the world's best RFO compared to what they had done before, it was else better. And then a couple weeks ago, actually, I guess the maintenance is happening today. They put out hey, we have some planned maintenance. We're going to do this and this and this on the 12th. I don't know that I ever got one of those ever before, saying, hey, we're going to do this work in the future. So props to them for getting better
baby steps,
at communicating.
Man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm terrible at it too, but I don't have lots of people paying me complaining about it. So.
No, that makes me think of like the one day where we just all of a sudden got these really verbose change logs out of MikroTik. You remember that? Like there used to be virtually nothing in there, and then all of a sudden
fixed routing.
Yeah. Or the change log would be like 4 entries long, and that there was like 50 things that they either added, changed. Yeah, so now they're extremely verbose. I guess extremely verbose compared to where they used to be. So it's they're always improving. So it's good to see other vendors kind of jumping on that bandwagon as well.
Yep. So for those at Sonar listening that do not always appreciate the tone and approach that I take, eat that one. I give you a thumbs up.
That's right. Mikey's growing. He's learning.
Now, don't get me wrong. If it goes the other direction, I'll be just as vocal.
But like to that end, it really is easy to bag on people. But oftentimes we forget to celebrate their successes, right? So it's good on you, bud.
I try, because if you just do, if you just bag on someone all the time, your comments are going to be taken less seriously because you don't, you're just wailing on, it's just like, modern news. It's just wherever you go, there's wailing against one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always wail against it. No one ever says
Well,
anything
ultimately,
good.
I just assumed you were trying
So-
to neg them
So people don't
in an
listen.
attempt to make them want you even more. So, success.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I saw you pop in the update in the Slack earlier about the CCR 2.11.6. It's BGP performance. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I spent probably most of the time that you were talking during the podcast so far trying to find the original post that Kevin Myers did, and I was unsuccessful. Darn you, Facebook. But he had mentioned that, and I can't be quoting now because I couldn't find it. But there was some BGP, some full table BGP performance information that they've been doing. I guess Zhone has made a new route simulator type thing that will take full tables and do stuff with it. And the 2116 actually had better performance than a Juniper MX or a
Now, was
Cisco
that just
ASR
like
9K.
loading full tables, like completion time, start to finish?
I believe loading and
Okay.
emptying.
That's interesting. So I know Andrew Thrift weighed in a little bit on this, and so I love to misquote him. Let's both have a swing at it because that's always enjoyable. But he was saying something about the routing image routing system on the MX and the ASRs is a little bit older, right? Whereas the MikroTik one is just built from scratch just recently. So hopefully it's taking advantage of the most efficient processes as possible, to get those numbers. Now, I think he did also say that once you start adding some of the filtering into the MikroTik BGP process, that performance is probably going to be a little bit more in line with the Juniper MX. So to me, that suggests that they did this testing with zero filtering. It was just raw table coming in, no filter associated with it. So maybe once you start throwing some of that stuff in, right? I mean, which makes sense, right? It's going to have to start performing processing on this stuff. And I'm assuming the MX and the ASR are going to do all that in hardware as opposed to MikroTik doing that filtering probably in software, which is going to slow it down and kind of even them out. But honestly, I don't think we have any solid data on that yet, but it's intriguing nonetheless, is it not, Mike?
Yeah. And it's just nice to see that, rightfully so. For a long time, people have been bagging on, CCR BGP performance, and unfairly, extrapolating that to all of MikroTik. But it's nice to see that on fresh CCR hardware with the fresh software, that we're now in the same ballpark as people that cost.
It's exciting times we live in, my good man.
Yeah. It's there's as I look at things, I'll probably still stay with CHR for now, but who knows, maybe maybe there'll be another CCR 2000 era device on the way that makes me change my mind.
I think for my really heavy lifting, I'm probably going to stick with CHR just for the moment. But, there could quickly come a day. Why do I say quickly? Chip shortages, nothing's happening quick right now. But there could feasibly come a day in the not too distant future where we see kind of the hardware offloading in the MikroTiks really start showing some advantages that would make it preferable over CHR in some scenarios. I know it's going to run a lot more power efficient, a lot more fuel efficient in most scenarios, I would assume, rather than a server that's going to be running the CHR infrastructure. But then, I don't know. I kind of like running stuff on CHR because I can also do all kinds of other funky stuff on that server. So I can load up all kinds of other VMs doing other interesting things that can kind of help me along. But also, now that I'm thinking about it, MikroTik's flaunting with the Docker stuff, right, to be able to run containers and things like that. So, I think once they get the container stuff nailed down, I'm going to figure out a way to use the MikroTiks as execution nodes for the Ansible automation platform. That'll be cool. So I'll have them as like remote execution nodes, and then my centralized controller will just like fire it off down to there and let it perform its execution inside. So it can kind of do like little secure connectivity in. I think that'll be cool.
Nice. Yeah. I just pulled up here that the CRS 317 IPv4 routes. It'll do 160K to 240K routes in hardware.
Yeah.
Which obviously is not a full table, but it's definitely everything you care about.
Yeah, if you're running like these guys are on the inside, you're not going to be using it as your border router, but on the inside, yeah, you could do some stuff.
Well, I mean, and then I'm not as exposed to other platforms as a lot of other people are, but one thing that MikroTik sure to point out is that it's not like you're going to hit the wall and then everything else falls on the floor. The rest is just then routed by the CPU, which obviously the CRS series doesn't have a big CPU, but it did mention though that MikroTik's smart connection offload algorithm ensures that connections with the most traffic are offloaded to the hardware. NAT. Never mind. Maybe that doesn't apply to the route table.
Still interesting. What's the full table up to now? Like around 800,000 routes.
I was actually doing some maintenance on my infrastructure this morning, and one of my transits was over 900.
Over 900,000. Is that also like hitting like an internet exchange or something like that?
So
I'm looking at.
Let me see here. It's currently running at 900,406 routes.
I'm looking at the routes I'm pulling from Fibertown and Bryan. I've got 869,000. So yeah, man, bumping right up on it.
And that I think it was a bit more than my other carrier, but so maybe that one is including a bit more. I mean, I know that they are on some IXs, so that probably helps their numbers. But yeah, 866, 699 on my other one, so similar to your Fibertown. Yeah, that's but you're gonna fit in 160,000 routes. You're definitely gonna get anything you care about is gonna fit there. I mean, back when you were running, what was it, Border 6, how much of your traffic was in how many routes?
Oh man, I have no idea. I can't. It's crazy how much information has fallen out of my brain since I've left that place. I think it was sheer anxiety and stress that was.
Well, you don't have any hair to hold it
in my brain. No, I mean, yeah, you're right. It was the vast majority of it was coming. Well, at least from a handful of ASNs. I don't know about specific routes itself, but ASNs for sure. The vast majority was coming, like from your Facebook, Google, the Apple networks, what I mean? Just your heavy hitters, and then your CDN networks. That's really where the vast majority of, or I guess I could say the bulk of the traffic was going from and to. So yeah.
So that should handle most of what you need to do. But then looking at some of the, and the CCR 2000 series, they don't have a large hardware route functions, 16K to 30K. That's still probably good enough to handle most of what you would care about. But now with the benefit of being on a CPU large enough to handle the rest of them. Um, um, yes, yeah. So like, I just checked my routers on the IX. Netflix has 9 routes. Akamai has 37. Facebook has 44. So yeah, 16,000 routes should be more than enough to handle all the big talkers.
For sure. You just filter it out to get just to those and go to town.
Yep. And then just moving all your high talkers off at wire speed. That's
Hey, you can make it happen.
certainly helpful.
You and the captain can make it happen. All right, man. Well, what else you got?
I don't know. I have not been paying a lot of attention to
either.
things.
I really had my head down. Trying to get a lot of this stuff done. Switching over to a brand new version of a product, and it's moving in all different ways and helping to develop some documentation and all this is just, man, I've been absolutely just covered up, just consumed. And it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down for a little minute. So I think I'm going to continue to have my head down. So hopefully the guys in the Slack will stay on top of things, and we'll just make them get on here and tell us all about what's going on. That's kind of the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah. It's I'd say that most of my time lately has been chewed up in that we had let our outside plant manager go a few months ago, and now that I'm going back through trying to fill in things, I'm like, well, where's the documentation that says this? Oh, it wasn't completed. So let's see. Oh, the parts that were completed, half of it's wrong. So now with it being frozen outside, I had to put together a plan to then have guys go and open up every single splice case and
Nice.
document what it is.
And there's zero danger with opening splice cases one after another, right? Completely safe.
Yeah.
Nothing could ever go wrong.
I was very apprehensive, and first I was trying to figure out what can I possibly do to figure all this out without opening up splice cases. And then when it was like, okay, well, the documentation that we do have, combined with what we've learned in the field, without opening splice cases, and there's still too many points where there's a big hole in the middle. And now I've turned up new customers. It's like, okay, well, where do I take those strands
Doesn't sound
from?
like there was anything for it. Just had to get in there and do it.
I don't.
While you're talking about opening up splice cases, that reminds me, I saw a bunch of pictures. Not that I'm constantly in there, but I was just scrolling through and saw them of it's either the fiber group you invited me to or WISP talk, but it was people opening up their splice cases and they were just solid bricks of ice inside. You didn't find any of that, did you?
I've seen. I haven't heard any yet. I'm sure that they would have told us if they did. I think most of the time that's from just people just not closing it properly, and then water gets in, and then once water gets in, and then it's freezing. Then it
nothing for.
freezes.
I guess it was just slowly filling up over time and just holding it in there, and then here comes the cold weather. We freeze, it would probably crack and explode the case, and that just makes it worse. Yeah. Good times. I'm sure those people were having really good days, really good weeks.
On the one customer, it wasn't a couple of weeks ago. The handhole was next to a business's parking lot, and the business, when it was clearing the parking lot, it put the snow into the, it went past the sidewalk and put it in the little parkway between the sidewalk and the street. The entire parking lot's worth of snow. So snow is piled 6 foot high. We don't know where the handhole is. So it's like, okay, guys, come back. I have a Bobcat. Monday, I guess I'll load it up. I'll go out there, start, scooping around, see if we can find it. And then, as we're out there, the business owner actually saw us there working, and said what I said what we were doing. He's like, "Oh, it's right there." Like, I know because I had to plant the grass around it. I'm like, we've paid people lots of money to go do all the restoration, sometimes more than once. It's like, oh yeah, no, they came out and they put some, fancy grass matting on, staked it down and stuff. But the problem was that they left rocks the size of potatoes in there. And what do? Mow around them? So I had to pull all that crap out and then just reseed it. So, yes, I know where the handhole is. It's right there. Okay, and sure enough, get the Bobcat, scooped right there.
Awesome.
That's where it was. So my guys screwing off earlier made this particular moment a lot easier.
Very nice. Yeah, I don't miss doing locates. That used to be such a pain in the butt because we only ever had to do locates when it was like 102 degrees outside with like 80% humidity. It was never when it was like a nice, pretty day where you wanted to go for a walk.
Yeah, and so thankfully we have a guy that does that. I don't have to do that ever. And actually, one nice thing is that he actually used to work for USIC. They do get a ton of deserved bad comments, but he was actually one of the good ones, and he got let go because he informed his boss of his poor decisions. And so our contractors actually recommended him at one point. Hey, if you ever need to hire a locator, call this guy. And sure enough, when the last guy didn't work out, we called him and works for us, and he does a wonderful job. Most wonderful because it's not
I
me
hear that,
doing
man.
it.
I'm getting too old for that stuff. I'm like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. Which I think he was pretty close to my age in that movie. So, I definitely understand where he was coming from. All right, man. Well, let's stick a fork in it.
Nice.
Let's do the thing. All right, Mikey.
Sounds
I
good.
know you are absolutely not going to be around, especially in the coming weeks. So if you want to redirect somebody a different direction, where would you have them go?
Patreon.com/BrothersWisp.
That's what I figured. Well, you guys can find me at greg@gregsoul.com, where I'm very regularly blogging at gregsoul.com as well. You can also contact us at thebrotherswisp.com. I mean, all that stuff comes to the same place, so you can get a hold of us. Feel free. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything you want to see or do, or you want to be on here yourself because, Mikey and I are too busy to be put upon to actually put together some decent content, then feel free to let us know. Thank you guys, and thank you, Mike, and see you guys next time. Bye. All right, let me go find my stop button. Let me say that really long and slow.
Just give us a listen, 'cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you.